How was the party on the weekend?
Amazing. Yeah, it was great. It was my daughter's first birthday party. And it was actually, what was amazing about it is that it was one of the best parties I've been to, bar none, aside from who it was for, in a long time, because my wife just made something so beautiful. She made the most incredible food and the spread and everybody, and just the people who came. And then it was storming, so we all had to be inside, and we don't have a big house. So it was very squashed, like lots of people in a small space. But it was just such a good energy. Like everybody was so happy. Our daughter was so happy the whole day. And then a lot of people left, but a lot of people stayed. I mean, the invite said 1 to 4 p.m. And I think the last person left about 8:30 or 9
Oh, wow.
or something.
It was a wild one.
It was a wild one. We partied hard. But we lit the fire. The rain was coming down outside. We were playing songs and harmonizing. There's a dear friend of mine, Krallen, who's a phenomenal local musician, and his son, Dale, and his partner Ruth, and but several other people who are all musically inclined, and it just was like a spontaneous. There was actually a moment I was making coffee. Once enough people had left that I felt like if I start making coffee, I won't be here for 3 hours. And I basically was making coffee, so I was a bit outside of the lounge area, and I look back into the lounge, and there's the glowing fire on the left in the wood burning stove, and there's just people and children and laughter and music. And I was like almost like the fly on the wall in that moment from the outside looking in, and I just thought, this is exactly what I want my life to be. And then I was like, this is it. I'm here. It's not happening right now. This is it. So yeah, it was that.
I feel you. I feel you. That's exactly the vision I have. It's one of it's a central vision for me, with having made the decision to settle down here. And I totally feel you. So there were no substances involved other than oxytocin.
Yeah. As my friends who were there actually often say, on the wings of oxytocin. Yeah. I mean, I was trying to think about it. I don't think anybody bought alcohol. It wasn't an alcohol-free thing. Maybe some people were smoking some weed. I didn't see anybody. Maybe I didn't see any of it going down, other than maybe some tobacco. I think was the only thing other than oxytocin there.
How's life at the moment with a 1-year-old?
It's getting a little more settled than it was initially. We're kind of getting into a rhythm around it, or being in a rhythm, and it's good. It's different. I'm still learning how to manage time more skillfully, because that becomes such a I was always the guy who was early for stuff, and now I'm often late, which is very unusual for me. I've always been annoyed when that happens.
Oh yeah, it's one of my biggest triggers.
Yeah. So now I'm getting to have the beautiful experience of being that person and learning how to have empathy for myself, and realizing that people have just got stuff going on, and it's not always. Sometimes it is about people could just be a little more aware around time, but in my case, I found it very easy to do that. I would always be early. I was like, it's really straightforward. It's not too much to ask. But there's something different. I don't think, this is maybe a deeper thing. I haven't really thought too much about it, but I don't think that humans are designed for time in the way that we currently measure it. It's, I remember hearing about this. There's this tribe called the Huni Kuin in the Amazon that I do a lot of medicine work with. They come to visit South Africa, and I was speaking with someone who was working on a documentary with them, and they lived with them for months, at least months, possibly longer. And I was like, how was that? And they said it was initially very frustrating. And I said, well, what do you mean? And this person said, well, because I would be like, okay, it's 9 a.m. We need to now go do this shoot. We want to get that thing. And then they'd just be like, no, it's not. We're not ready. And then she'd be okay, but we got to do the thing. And then sometimes days would go by, nothing was happening. And then out of the blue, they just be like, come now, it's the time. And then they'd go and do it. They don't operate on this idea of regimented time, but they know when it's time.
Yeah. Which is a man-made construct anyways, right?
Completely.
It's another illusion.
Rhythms exist and cycles exist. So there is a measurement. There are the seasonalities. There's our revolution around the sun. There's the moon moving through her paths. There's the tides rising and falling, the sun rising and setting. There's all the circadian rhythms. All these things exist. Those are real time. Those are what God has given us. And then we go, well, how many minutes are there in a day? And then we're like, well, now we need to be here at this meeting at that time. And I think part of that is look at how separate we are from the joy of flow. Yeah. And so my daughter doesn't give a shit about time, and time in the way that we measure it now. She's like, I'm hungry, I'm sleepy, I'm happy, I want to play, I want to go outside, that's her time. And so learning how to enjoy that more, it's been great. I actually really enjoy it, but I am definitely letting go of some shit. Some things are not getting done that I thought were very important. Yeah.
Maybe on a more personal level, how did you change as a man, as a husband, as a friend, as a human being in the past 12 months?
I would say I don't know that I changed that much. I suppose change is part of it, but I feel like I've been on a path of transformation for a long time. So it's really just like an opportunity to stop practicing and start being in it. Like I think often with so one of the big problems of the modern sort of self-help movement, or the new age movement, is a constantly chasing peak experiences, just constantly after the next big healing. Can't wait for that cacao ceremony, man. Like that's when it's can't wait for that next breath work, that ecstatic dance. Even the name ecstatic dance, it's like, can't it just be fun dance? Like, it's like just dance. Like, should we just dance? Does it have to be ecstatic? The ecstasy might come, but it doesn't have to. And so a part of the training of plant medicine for me has been to be able to sit in the pain and the joy and the whatever and all the things and just kind of be okay. Like I can still breathe. I'm still here. And so being a parent for me is like, now it's living that, because that's what it is. And I lose it sometimes. And so then I get an opportunity, like I do in any medicine journey, I get to then go, how am I creating this experience for myself? Am I choosing joy, or am I trying to get out of this discomfort? So in terms of what's changed, I just say it's expansion. It's real expansion. It's like less about getting somewhere and more about being here now, but in a real way, without having to go and sit in a temple or learn how to meditate or like do all these other things that are apparently so important, but actually just to be here and actually in it, like really in it. And and I think every path is appropriate. I don't think there's an inappropriate path for someone to find their way back to God or back to what has meaning for them. But certainly for me, I find more and more that just like the simple experience of being human is enough. Because this whole shit show is mad, completely mental. This whole thing's insane. And I think a lot of pain is caused in trying to solve it. But there's nothing to solve. So that's kind of, I think that's what's deepening for me. Like this morning even, I was feeling that time thing where I'm like, fuck this, now I'm running later than I wanted to, and I got to get out of the house. So I went into the room. My wife had my daughter Huni down for a nap, but Huni wasn't napping. She's still playing. She's like, it's not that time yet. And so I went onto the bed to say goodbye to them, and I just started tickling Huni's back, and immediately she just closed her eyes, and I had my hand on her forehead, and she just completely softened, and I was just tickling and scratching her back, and I just was like, well, fuck it, I'm leaving when I leave, and I just stayed there for a little bit and just enjoyed that. So if anything's changed, if I've grown into anything, it's just realizing more and more that there is nothing to get to. And that does not at all, that's the paradox, it doesn't at all take away from my desire to be a leader and a provider and a safe haven for my partner and for my community. But like the mistake is in denying myself the joy of the present moment until I get to that thing, whatever that thing is, that big goal, well, once I'm the dude who wakes up at 4 a.m. and does this and this and this, and then has that thing and writes that journal piece, and that's a fuck all of that. If I could just be here and now, here we are. This is it. There's nowhere else to be. That's my biggest lesson, and one that I'm very unskilled in, but I'm actively enjoying the process of coming back to it more and more. So, yeah.
You said when you started your path of transformation, and I mean, that's basically how we met, like a year ago-ish, when we both went to a man's initiation weekend, transformation weekend, whatever you want to call it, with Sacred Sons. And I'm wondering, because I had Robert Paddock on here a few weeks ago, and we talked about that, for both of us, very profound weekend, of course, as well. What's your intention for man's work, for attending an event like that?
Yeah, it's a fun question. I think feminism is a really big mistake because it uses a word that by its very definition focuses more on women than men in a way that doesn't acknowledge that it's what we want is equity. The idea of equality even has some dangerous connotations to it, because men and women in our biology need different things. There's a beautiful image that I actually look at quite often of the hormonal profile of men and women over the period of 28 days. And a man's hormonal profile is like the sun. It rises, the testosterone rises every day and then sinks every day and rises and sinks. And it's just this very reliable, you could set a clock to it. It's very much about regimented, like, here we go. This is how linearly my hormonal profile works. A woman, however, her hormonal profile moves through these huge sweeping rises and falls over the period of 28 days. And so just on a baseline biological level, men and women are having a different experience.
Totally.
And what feminism has lost or is to blame men and say, they say it's about equality, but it's about women getting what they want. And women don't necessarily, what women want changes a lot every month within this huge sweep of emotion and hormonal transformation. And then that's aside from before they've had their first moon, when they're having their moon, when they're pregnant, when they're a mom, when they enter menopause. Like, and I think the best thing any of us could do would actually be to build a society that prioritizes the needs and rhythms of women over men, because men have a very consistent profile, and women are the ones who bring life through and nourish all life on earth for all those who come after us. So it makes so much more sense to me that men should be in service to women. And so this idea of equality is bullshit. Like, men do well when we serve, when we have a purpose, when we have a direction, we have something to give ourselves to, give ourselves up for. And so for me, men's work is an opportunity to connect with other men. And I just love the way he said it on the weekend, iron sharpens iron. There's something I get when I work or interact with men that I don't get from women. And I'm speaking as like I was your best feminist for most of my life, up until probably my late 20s or early 30s. I was that guy. All the women could talk to me and they lean on
Mr. Nice Guy.
Mr. Nice Guy.
Yeah.
He's so safe. He's all good. While I was also sleeping with lots of women and using that whole energy as a way to maintain my sense of power and avoid my sense of inadequacy and insecurity, and using all those dynamics. So women love feminist men. They don't like fucking them. So there's something in that. Like, what is it about a Mr. Nice Guy man who's so accommodating and just does whatever you want, baby. Like, women are the best. Men are terrible. Fuck men. Let's go women. And women are like, that's so cool. I'm going to sleep with the bad guy. I'm going to sleep with the naughty boy, not even the naughty boy, the bad guy, which is terrible as well, because that archetype of man is also it's harmful. It's as harmful as the feminist soft guy who's got no balls and doesn't know how to hold his own with a woman so that she can feel safe enough to fully go into chaos and come out of it transformed and juicy and like available and open because she's been held. So we need that man who is the powerful man, the king, the leader, the warrior, who can hold the chaos and witness the chaos without reacting to it. And that's what I get from men's work, is I get to practice all of that, because the men I can get really strong with men in a way that I can't with women, and that I shouldn't with women. I think we've made so many mistakes in our languaging, in English in particular. I don't speak any other languages, but saying like that term that used to be popular is the weaker sex. Women is the weaker sex. It's clearly bullshit. And there are aspects of truth within it, which is that men generally are physically stronger than women. Most men are stronger than most women. Most men can build muscle faster than most women. Most men are designed for physical acts more than most women. And that's just a general baseline. Yeah. That's not a limitation. That's not how it is for everybody. We can change that depending on how we move ourselves. But again, if we just follow the template nature's already given us, life improves. So it's a long-winded answer to your question. But for me, men's work is my opportunity to practice my biology, is to practice. It's also a way that I don't have to do that thing I used to do with my wife and with other women where I would dump all my shit on them because that's what they're asking for, but it's not what they really want. They don't really want a guy who's constantly offloading and having deep and meaningful. They say they want it, but then when I give it to them, then they withdraw and there's less sensuality, less sexuality, less of that spark of like juiciness. So to me, men's work is a chance to find that safe place where I can fall apart. Where I can fight, where I can practice my strong language, where I can make those mistakes and be mirrored and reflected and held by other men who are doing the same, because then iron sharpens iron. And then what my wife gets is a dude who's a lot calmer, a lot more stable, a lot stronger, and a lot more capable of holding her in whatever part of her flow she's currently in, and just enjoying more of that, being able to enjoy more of it instead of getting all reactive and making it about myself and all those things. Did that answer your question?
Absolutely. And I appreciate the bomb you gave me there, the answer. Feminism is a mistake. I mean, I really appreciated you elaborating on,
I mean, I knew statement. I was opening it up hot.
But then again, I wonder, I mean, feminism, and it's such a polarizing topic, obviously, just like so many. But I see feminism as a spectrum, and I definitely see the benefits in, over the last few decades, even centuries, we've been living, especially in the West, in a very, obviously man-dominated society, patriarchy, you might say, which created some debatable outcomes. And now feminism was kind of like a counter movement that pushed the pendulum into the other direction, to kind of like, the ideal end result would be to balance it out a little bit, right? But because it went so far into the other direction with those quote unquote extreme feminists, what it created, among others, is another extreme masculinism or manosphere. Have you seen
Manosphere.
the?
I was thinking that exact term. I was like,
and now, especially due to social media and the algorithms, we're pretty much caught in those two extremes. And I talked about that with Robert as well. The algorithms don't favor conversations like these. They favor extreme figures like Andrew Tate, who says, I beat women and my woman stays at home. She she doesn't leave the kitchen.
Oh my God.
So, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I don't know where I want to go with this, but would you say there are benefits to the feminist movement as well?
Yeah, I might want to call it something else. I think maybe we need a new name, because that name has become so misaligned. It's
another ideology.
Or just not an ideology. I mean, we've already got the template from nature. Like, nature's already given us a template of what humans need from each other, from life, from inside. So we're trying to reinvent a wheel here. I mean, it's a big problem. It's a big challenge, because our whole society, we're talking about feminism right now. We could be talking about shoes, and it would be as fucked up, as far from nature. Like, we could be talking about birth or death, those big ones. We could be talking about career or purpose or work. We could be talking about like any topic we want to cover right now. We are so far from what nature gave us that it's very hard to know where the baseline is. So in terms of, I think feminism, earlier you said, men and the patriarchy have caused a pretty bad thing. I think it's boys in men's bodies. I think we have to go deeper. Like, it's not just men. Mm-hmm. It's traumatized individuals who had no community, who didn't have a holding space for processing the wounding they received, the separation from source that they received through their circumstances. And I don't know when that started, but it had a beginning, because there are tribes or indigenous folk who still have that connection to source, where that never went away, where they still understand that we are part of an ever unfolding infinite cycle of birth, growth, decay, death, and rebirth, and that there's nowhere to go. And they lived that consciously. So when they would say great spirit, they knew that they were speaking, or great mystery, they were speaking to something beyond the capacity of this little small human self to understand. And then we have this modern society that is apparently so advanced, and yet our religions are just creating more separation. Yeah. Our commerce and the way that we live our lives is destroying the very thing that has birthed us. Well, not destroying, she's going to be fine, but we're certainly destroying our chance of having a beautiful time while we're here for this brief moment, rapidly. So in terms of, has feminism helped? I don't know if it has, because now we have the Manosphere. Yeah. And we have that site. I mean, I haven't done any looking into this. I literally haven't had the time or energy. I've barely been online recently. But someone said to me, did you hear about that website where...
My girlfriend sent it to me a few days ago.
Yeah, and I don't know more than what like someone could say in a few sentences, because I haven't looked it up. But just that alone, so I don't know the authenticity of the statistics they're giving or where it comes from, all that stuff. But the fact that something like that even exists, to me, says that feminism hasn't worked.
Yeah, I'm trying to find.
Neither has the Manosphere, obviously. Neither of those are good things. And the idea of honoring that we all have value, that whether you're a man or a woman or a child or an animal or a plant, that all of it has value. I'm all in on that idea.
Yeah.
And that we should live our lives, or not should, but it would really benefit us as a collective to practice whatever's required to bring us more in alignment with that reality, that everything matters. The sand on the beach matters. The stars matter, men matter, women matter, everyone. It all matters. It all has value. It all has meaning because it has been created by a great consciousness that is choosing this in this moment. So I don't know what to call that. Universalism, maybe, but like
existentialism. I don't know.
Maybe. Certainly having an existential crisis.
A different perspective on, or different interpretation of existentialism.
Yeah.
But I just wanna reference or mention what we were talking about. I think we were talking about the same thing. It was a report by CNN about a website where that instructed man on how to what's the word?
How to drug and rape their wives.
Yeah. And CNN reported that there was 62 million men active on that website, which is fake news. It was 62 million active sessions or something like that, but it was a few, I don't know, 50, 60, 70,000.
If there was 100 people on there, it'd be too many. It's insane. But it's a natural insanity resulting from the way that our society is structured. It's so easy to, and I say this with a deep empathy for anyone who's been impacted by this. This is horrific. This is like a fucking, like I feel such like an agony of frustration in my jaw when I'm thinking about this. Like it's so fucking ridiculous. And we have to look at it bigger. If we just continue to be reactive to the latest piece of news about the terrible thing that's been done by some people in the world, we are playing straight into the currently operating entity that is running the show. That all it wants is more attention and more separation and more confusion and more powerlessness. Mm-hmm. Because this is just another symptom. Like the way I think of someone like Trump, and I really do not follow politics, but I cannot avoid someone like Trump if I turn on the internet. People share that shit. And what I thought of him as, especially because of his hair, he reminded me of nothing more than a boil. Like he is the head of a pimple that's got that little white cap that lets you know that there's something infected in there and something's not where. He's the perfect invitation to see that there's something that needs to be released and needs to be healed, that there is a dis-ease in our society. And I could give other examples. I just think he fits beautifully because of the color of his hair and the color of a pimple. So this thing is a part of the same dis-ease. Yeah. And that's why I love something like Sacred Sons. Obviously, they have their politics. I don't know the depths of how that organization runs. I do have concerns about an organization that is so online. Mm-hmm. I'm starting to get more and more concerned about anything that runs overly online because I think that the internet, the way that it's currently structured, is inherently harmful. Mm-hmm. I think, and we could talk about that, but and I've been someone avidly on the internet for a large portion of my life, and I think it has done in many ways more harm than good, certainly to me and to many others I know. And so saying all of that, I do think Sacred Sons, what I see with them is their trajectory of transformation is that men, wherever they start, move in the direction of becoming in service to community, to family, to women, to their brothers, to their children, to their land, that it moves men in the direction of integration with the idea that everything matters and that we should be in service to that. Mm-hmm. So I do think there are really positive movements in the world. So if anyone is outraged by this website and what's happening, like breathe into that outrage and then move in the direction of what you do want. Stop shouting at other people on the internet about it and go out there and join a gardening club and start reforesting an area of your city, or join a men's circle or a women's circle, or like channel that rage into actual doing movement. Because if you're sitting there outraged or overwhelmed with how terrible everything is, then the message has succeeded. It's done exactly what it was intended to do.
Totally. Yeah, it's similar with, I started following Andrew Tate on Substack recently.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, just because, I could anticipate the criticism coming in, when people see something like that, or see my profile and see that I'm following Andrew Tate. But my intention behind that was just trying to get to understand this guy more, or like his perspectives, not because, to or to learn how to engage with it in a constructive way, instead of like, the things he posted. I mean, there are obviously, once again, those two extremes, those who empower and really celebrate this guy and say, oh yeah, that's exactly what we got to do. I saw a post on, I think it was on Friday, where he said, headline was, money is everything. And then the bottom line, the last few sentences were, 10 million, 1 million, no, 10 million is the new million, and 100 million is the new 10 million. So you gotta step up, you gotta make more money and become more successful and whatsoever. And the comments were filled with, just fanboys, and the other ones were just insulting him, calling him a racist, an idiot, a raper, whatsoever. And there was like no middle. There was there was almost no one engaging with it. And then I sat down and I really thought for like 20, 30 minutes about what constructive feedback I could give to that. And I ended up writing a little comment which got quite a few likes. Like, people actually, enjoyed reading someone engaging with the actual content, and instead of just, saying basically, yeah, Andrew, that's right. Yeah. Thanks for the advice. Brilliant. And the other one like, fuck you, Andrew. It's yeah. Fucking idiot and stuff like that. And where I want to go with this is like, totally. How about we find a way to engage with these kinds of content, be it by, sitting down, taking the time to write a sophisticated or well thought comment, which needs a bit of time, or use the energy to do some gardening or join a man circle and be of service again. Totally. Yeah. But I'm surprised we've gone so deep into socio-political topics.
Yeah, which is another topic.
I didn't expect that.
I guess it's all connected at the end of the day.
I mean, I don't avoid it, but I'm definitely more interested like in personal stories. And I would actually like to hear your story about how you've become the man you are today, and when it started, and how this all unfolded.
Yeah, well, society broke me. I didn't survive. I wasn't one of the ones who managed to keep my shit together through the trauma of being born into such a broken society. I remember being my authentic self as a young boy. I remember the sense of wonder and excitement and awe and enthusiasm, or like, oh wow, this is I get to do this thing. Like watching raindrops follow each other down the side windows of my parents' car while I drove in the back seat, like, and just being okay with that, just having the time to just enjoy them, drops chasing each other. That was my authentic state, and a desire for connection and for playfulness. And then I went to school, and the things that felt most natural to me were the exact things I got bullied for, and the exact things I got put in detention for by the teachers. And over time, and then combining that with my parents' own lineage of trauma, on my mom's side, there's the Jewish influence and fleeing Europe in the early 1900s, I think 1916, around there, great-grandparents fleeing Europe, running away to South Africa, and so there's that history. And then on my dad's side, there's kind of the other side of it, which is the conqueror. Like I have, what do they call them? Privateers. I don't know if you know that term, but a privateer is basically a legal pirate. That used to, yeah. So basically, like the French government in this case. This is hundreds of years ago. Someone has kept our family tree on my dad's side for hundreds of years, which is amazing. Wow. People have maintained it. So they were basically in the French Navy, but kind of not officially, more hired to go and disrupt other countries' trading, like shipping lines. Yeah. So basically pirates, but legal, but pirates for a government. And did horrific, like raping, pillaging other countries, like that whole thing. I don't know details of exact occasions, but that was certainly some of the history I know of. And then at some point in the past, there was the great breaking from source, which has happened to every single person living on Earth today, just about, the vast majority. And so I came in, as I think all children do, with the weight of my heritage and my lineage and the sort of, what do they call it? The epigenetics,
the genetic generational trauma.
Yeah, the genetic imprint of what my family has navigated, whether as the persecutors or as the victims, or as the rescuers as well, which is another whole mistake that people make. And then my parents were navigating their own thing. And then they got divorced when I was 10. And it wasn't like a friendly, let's be friends, kumbaya. It was like 8 years of legal battles and psychologists and
same here.
Mayhem, just total shit show. And at some point in that path, like I remember, obviously it's a long story, but I can give you the moment. There was a few moments in there. So the moment that I gave up on women was, I was at Jewish camp. I was 12 years turning 13. So just hitting puberty, just starting to like have these feelings. Met this girl there and started dating her. And actually, if I rewind a little bit, when my parents' divorce began, at some point, my mom dropped us at our dad's house for a weekend with him and just disappeared for 9 months. This story is something I've worked through and processed a lot. It doesn't really have a charge for me anymore in the same way it did, but I tell it in case it's useful to anyone else. But it's not something I'm like digging into my poor story. It's like, no, I've done, it's fine. I love her. I love my dad. I love them all. It's beautiful. Everyone's got their shit. But she needed to go for whatever reason. But she didn't tell us. She just dropped us at his house and then she was gone. No letters, no phone calls, didn't know where she was, didn't know what had happened. And I actually don't have a memory of that period. So those 9 months are kind of a blank in my memory. And no amount of deep work I've done has so far uncovered those memories. I remember her leaving, like dropping us off. And then I remember my dad saying, I have a surprise for you. And we went to visit one of my mom's friends and my mom was there. And so that kind of like created the cracks in the safety that I was going to be safe with women, with the mother, with my first love, that she was always going to be there, that it was going to be okay. Yeah. And then that first girlfriend, we dated for like 3 weeks. I mean, I was 13 at that point. It was really but I really felt like she was my first kiss. And I can still clearly remember that kiss. I remember exactly where I was. I remember the exact feeling. I felt like I actually became infinite. I had a psychedelic experience, although I didn't know what to call it at that point, but I disappeared. We kissed and I felt stars in my chest. Like everything was just gone. It was amazing. And then a few weeks later, she's like, this isn't going to work out. And again, I remember exactly where I was sitting. It was at a little braai sitting under a deck next to a pool. I was on the lounger and she said, this isn't going to work out. And I said, okay, that's fine. And that was my pattern always. Oh no, I'm fine. It's fine. Whatever you need. But inside me, that's when it shattered. That's when something went, we're never going through this again. Fuck that. How are we going to keep Nathan safe here? And so part of that safety was numbness, was that anytime things would get too intense, I would just stop feeling. It's much easier. Don't have to feel anything. And then I would also, anytime I was interested in a woman, I would make sure that I had a dynamic where I was the one in control. So either I would be sexually intimate with her, or in some way feel like I had the reins on the relationship, or I could become very emotionally connected and entwined if I knew she was leaving in a few weeks, or if I was leaving and it was on holiday, or like then I could go all the way because I'm like, it's cool, it's ending anyway. And I did that for a long time. I mean, and there was a lot of sincerity in that. I had a lot of sincere connections, and I was also constantly wrestling with this distancing, this avoidance, and it really was only in my early 20s that I started to get properly ill, like just noticing how much pain I was feeling. Things like erectile, I don't even like the term erectile dysfunction. I think it was erectile function. It was that my cock was like, you're hurting us with all of this fucking around, and I'm not going to play any more part in it. Like my body was communicating with me before I was willing to listen. So I would meet this new beautiful woman and go to bed together, nothing. And I'd be like, oh my God, that's so embarrassing. What's wrong with me? Da, da, da. And then it would usually be like, if we slept that together in bed that night, by the next day, I'd be ready to go. And my body had kind of calmed itself down enough. But there was a clear signal, because it would happen with lots of different people. And there were times when it wouldn't happen, and it wouldn't happen when it was someone I actually really felt safe with, like really comfortable. But I ignored it. I was like, no, that's just, well, I've worked a way around it, so we'll just keep going. And so all of those signals were happening. And it led me to, and what's so interesting is I started writing songs when I was 14. So I've been a songwriter for the vast majority of my life. I'm 42 now. And my songs initially some of them were really not great. Like it's funny, I was thinking about this last night. I wrote a terrible song that was basically about betrayal. It was about, the first half was, I love you, I'll do anything for you, you're amazing. And then the second half was, well, now I got to sleep with you, so I'm fucking out of here. And it was such a terrible thing to write, but I could only write that because I was so switched off. I thought it was funny. I was like, oh, that's funny. People think that's funny. But it was horrific. It was actually a sign of the pain I was in. It was like how far disconnected I was from what I really wanted.
The cry for help.
Yeah, exactly. But I I hurt people with that song in particular. It was really not a good vibe. So, oh shit, that's moving everything. Everything moves.
Well, that's a great analogy to the song, right?
Yeah.
You writing the song,
everything.
it has a domino effect.
Yeah, exactly. No, it really did. And yeah, so it took me a long time. And I tried so hard because of what I had got from school, from my parents, from the society in general, from the TV, from the media, from advertising, from the FHM posters on my wall of bikini-clad women, from like just the entire cultural dialogue, the entire cultural narrative, the mythology of our current culture was completely unnatural to me. And yet I thought that meant there was something wrong with me. I was like, oh, I must be the one who's not getting it. So let me drink, fuck, and numb myself into fitting in, because then I'll finally fit in. Then they'll love me. Then they won't abandon me. Then it'll be okay. And so it took many years. And my songs were kind of my first signpost, because I started writing different songs. My songs started to be much more about nature and connection and transformation. And again, I made so many mistakes. I could tell you so many stories of the stupid shit that I did that was all just guiding me in a certain direction. But it all led to one of the moments where the first big shift happened, which was in 2000 and beginning of 2010. I sat Vipassana for the first time. Actually, I've only ever sat it once. That was the time. And oh my God, my first 4 days, and this is 11 hours of meditation a day for anyone who doesn't know. It's literally meditation boot camp. It is so unpleasant, but it's unpleasant with a reason. And I actually don't recommend it for everyone, especially as a starting point into transformational work, because you can blow out your system. You can have a complete breakdown, which can be good for some, but if you've got the support for it.
I had it.
Really?
It was horrible.
Yeah. So it can...
It was, bro, it almost drove me to suicide.
Yeah.
I attended my first and one and only Vipassana in December 2022 in Thailand, which was 2 years after I've gotten... I mean, I got into meditation like 3 years prior to that. I had few psychedelic experiences. At that time, I was actually building what's today the psychedelic industry leader in Germany with a good friend of mine, mentor of mine, who had done a decade of inner work to that. So I was in an environment that was quite, I would say, I hate the term, but spiritually advanced, for the lack of a better term. And, I was constantly surrounded by this inner work, spiritual kind of vibe. And so I actually felt quite confident going in there. But man, I didn't expect what was waiting for me in there. I mean, to be fair, to give the whole story, that was to rewire a little bit. I started traveling around the world in the beginning of 2021, peak COVID. I had just dropped out of college, emigrated from Germany, started traveling and experiencing like the freedom for the very first time in my life, right? And as with so many counter movements, I went into the whole other extreme and jumped from one country to the next in a matter of 3-4 weeks, right? At the same time, I was running 2 businesses, or we were building 2 businesses. I was working 70, 80 hours a week. And then also on my travels, I met my girlfriend. So basically, after the first year, I was already burned out. I knew I was burned out. And as you told your story around erectile dysfunction / function, my body was giving me the signals. I started to have nose bleedings out of nowhere. Symptoms I had as a child. And no doctor could explain, the causes back then, which was also, I mean, that was the first few years after my parents got divorced. Nowadays, everything is much, much clearer. And I started having, in 2022, severe gut issues. Man, there were days, weeks where I couldn't take a shit, and I still worked through that, hustled through that, kept running. And also around that time, I went back to Germany because both my brothers were having major issues. Like my younger brother started this addiction. He's this bodybuilding and steroid addiction, right? And my older brother, he had just became a dad and was in debt with 70,000 gambling debt, right? So with my parentification conditioning, I thought I must be the savior, you know.
Right.
So I had my workload, I had my burnout, and then I started trying to rescue my brothers, which is, you know, the perfect formula to basically, well, kill yourself. And the great final was then that after 2 years of hustling, of sprinting through life, kind of like on cocaine, I decided to take my first vacation and spend that one on a on a Vipassana. And then that's not even you know, the worst thing, or the thing that made it.
Did you microdose?
Made it worse. No, even worse. So I started the relationship with my girlfriend, who is today my fiance, as an open relationship. Due to my bonding trauma, my dad left when I was 4. My parents got divorced quite early, and as you told, it was a fucking shit show. I didn't have any contact with my dad for more than 18 years. Like my dad he vanished, or my mom just made him disappear. And yeah, then after the first year in my relationship, and our open relationship, because my girlfriend wasn't here in South Africa, I was in Thailand, and literally the last message I got before going on to the Vipassana was that she was, for the first time in our relationship, vibing with another man down here.
Good timing.
And with all that, I went into the Vipassana, and you can't imagine, it was the worst torture of my life. And it was not only all the load I was carrying in the present, but after day 3, what happened was that I started remembering the violence I experienced in my childhood, like vividly. It was not, I always knew that I came from a dysfunctional family, you know, that our family was screwed. But I obviously, my psyche protected me from what actually happened. And in 250 hours of silence, it's quite likely that you are going to remember. And then after day 3, I started to, you know, re-experiencing the violence. And it just, I mean, there's a second part to that story. Like when I came out of the Vipassana, that's when the real shit show started, because I was like psychologically utterly destabilized, obviously.
Yeah.
And I could not function in this world anymore. I couldn't. I remember I got out of the monastery, and there were huge trucks in front of the monastery racing down the street, right? And I was like, holy fuck, how am I supposed to live in this hyper noisy world? Like there's so much stimulation, far too much. And I didn't even know where to go. I didn't know what to do. I was completely dissociated. I remember getting my passport back, you know, and when the other participants, they were, the day we got out of the Vipassana, they were in the hall and started chatting. And I remember people, first things first, started opening their laptops, replying to emails. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? How are they capable to do that? And it's also just another representation of this, you know, spiritual bubble where we both see a lot of shadows or risks and danger. You know, Vipassana has just, what you mentioned in the beginning, it's just become another trophy. This trophy hunting, ecstatic dance, ayahuasca, Vipassana. It's just another fucking rat race, man. And yeah, I remember I got my passport back, you know, and I stepped back from all the quote unquote noise from the other people that started chatting and that were like so relieved. And I wanted to stay in stillness. I needed to process. And I opened my passport and I was like, I saw my picture, saw my name. I was like, fuck, that's me. That's my identity. And I couldn't really connect with it. So where I want to go with this is just, I like, one of the main reasons I started this YouTube channel is that I wanted to break the taboo on topics like these, on topics like abortion and post-Vipassana trauma. And I've been working on a video script for my Vipassana experience for more than 2 years now. And it's really, really difficult. Not because I'm struggling with it emotionally. Obviously, as I can talk about it openly now, but finding the right words is almost impossible. And, you know, I'm going to watch this.
Title idea, meditation nearly killed me.
Vipassana nearly
well,
killed me.
A lot of people don't know what Vipassana is.
True, yeah.
Just go all in on the extreme polarizing title.
But yes, you're going to listen back to this. I'm going to watch this after we're done, and I'll probably feel like I didn't find the right words, you know, or I left certain things out. I forgot to mention things.
Because it's such a profound experience that can't really put into words. And the more I value that we speak about the shadow sides, because I've also, you know, 1 year after I got out of the Vipassana, I quote unquote randomly found a podcast by Tim Ferriss because I was heavily struggling with the aftermath of that experience for at least a year, at least a fucking year, man. Like basically the year 2023 was all about surviving for me. And I found this podcast by Tim Ferriss where he then, and I remember it as vividly as you described your first kiss. I went for a walk in the morning at the beach, put my headphones on and listened to Tim Ferriss sharing almost the exact same story of his re-traumatization at Vipassana experience.
Yeah. And I think there was, who was it? Jack
Cornfield
was there and could help him.
Exactly. Tim told the story where he was like, he went to Jack in the middle of the Vipassana and was like, look, this is what I'm experiencing and I have no fucking clue what to do with it. And remember, like Tim Ferriss is, you know, as a person, it's a man I deeply admire, and he's done fuck ton of work,
absolutely.
Right? And even this guy, quote unquote, even this guy broke down on a Vipassana experience. Yeah. And I remember until this day what Jack Cornfield said to him, which was, "You'll be okay. After this Vipassana, I'm not gonna move. I'll be with you and make sure you'll be okay." You know, and I get goosebumps telling the story because that's what I needed back then. And I didn't have no one. I didn't have no one. I went straight back to my family. I actually got fired from the supposedly enlightened business we were building in the aftermath. I was completely left alone. And my family, obviously, all of them were living, you know, the scripted life. They were, when I told them about a meditation retreat, they were like, whoa. That's crazy. You know, they have no fucking clue what's happening there or why I do this kind of work at all. So there was no one. No one I could talk to, really. No one who could understand me, which is, well, obviously you drive towards suicide with this kind of cocktail. It's a death cocktail, pretty much. And yeah, I think I just wanted to use that opportunity because I've been postponing writing that script, getting this video out for too long because it's just really fucking difficult. And just to bring at least pieces of the story out.
Yeah, well, thank you for sharing. And I feel like my hope is that by you sharing here, then you are moving in the direction of being able to put the words to it in the way that you want to, even if this isn't it. Maybe, but even if this isn't, then you still are at least practicing, moving in that direction, because it's such an important story to tell. It's not really out there. And it's actually tied into a bigger picture for me. And there's a few threads I'm holding now because I know you asked me, how did I become the man I became? And the Vipassana was a part of it. But the other piece here is around integration, preparation and integration, because so many of us, myself included, and many of the people I know, are, of course, traumatized. I think everybody's traumatized. That's like, welcome to
modern society. And many of us are on this healing path.
What's missing in that is something you've spoken to indirectly, but it's community. It's having a network of integrated support of people who know and care about us and know enough about us to be able to sit with us, whether we're laughing or crying, and to be able to still love us in that space and hold us in that space. And that's what, like, my podcast is kind of dead right now. It has been dead for a while. And there's several reasons for that. And I've just realized for me, one of the biggest reasons is that I lost track of where it was going. Like, to me, it became, what is the point of sitting and having all these inspiring conversations with all these people I really admire when I don't see that where does it take us? Oh, it's just another peak experience. Oh, wow, we get it. It's so inspiring. Oh my God, now what? Because we're all sitting in our isolated little boxes, staring at a screen, feeling alone, feeling unsupported, and paying coaches and healers thousands of dollars to help us to find the way to make it all better. And it's all it's a not consciously necessarily, although for some it is, but it's a scam. It's a great big scam, because what we really need is to sit around the fire, sing songs, share food, take care of our land, take care of each other, and come back to nature, come back to source. That's what we need biologically. And so with that in mind, I feel energized for my podcast again, because now I know the kind of conversations I want to have. I want to understand more from those who are actively working in or working towards community at a very deep and authentic level, not just join my online community, join my membership. We'll be the best of friends. If you feel lonely and you don't have the love you need in your life, join our online community.
Jump
we
on a
meet
Zoom
every
call.
week. Jump on a Zoom call. Everything you've been, shame, you poor abandoned soul. We have everything you need. So when I hear your story, what I hear is exactly what I experienced in that situation with Vipassana, was that I had zero support. I had no integration. I had no one prepared me and said, this could blow your mind, literally blow your perception of reality out of your fucking ears and leave you adrift on a sea of confusion and instability. And then also, we're just going to throw you back into the world afterwards and wish you well. Good luck. But that's what happened. And so for me, it didn't happen in quite the way you did, like where it didn't shake me up afterwards, but it was actually really valuable for me. But because it was so traumatizing or re-traumatizing, I didn't ever want to meditate again. I didn't meditate again for years after Vipassana. I was like, absolutely not. That's a horrible experience. But what it did give me was the first 4 days was basically 11 hours a day of action replays of every sexual encounter I'd ever had, and not in a good way. Not in a like, oh, that was fun, but like, this is what's happening underneath all of that. This is your pain. This is your abandonment. This is how you hurt others to keep yourself safe. This is how responsible you are for the actions you've taken. Just like, oh no, this is so bad. And so that was really a big turning point for me. Like, I already knew that things needed to shift, and I had been doing bits of work here and there, like inner work, but that timeline, actually just before that, I think I'd had my first ever ayahuasca journey, and and that was at a time no one knew what ayahuasca was. I wasn't like, it came to me. It's a fucking crazy story, but anyway. And then kambo, which again, I didn't even know what kambo was when I went to the ceremony, because it was happening where I was staying. They're like, we have this frog medicine kambo. I was like, that sounds cool. Let's do kambo. And I didn't Google it. I had no idea. I was like, well, let's do the frog medicine. And so I had those two experiences. And then on my birthday, actually it was on my birthday, and over my birthday I was in Vipassana, and again over that year I sat with some more medicines, and then I kind of ran away again because I was just getting so overwhelmed by how intense it all was. But that was where I really stopped being able to pretend that I could keep going the way I had been, because I was always me who you see now and who you talk to. If you'd spoken to me then, you would have been very familiar with, I'm still that guy. I'm still Nathan. I still have the core and the heart and the soul in me that comes through. But I was really like trying to cover it up with all these other actions and behaviors, because I was terrified of the hurt that I would experience, that I did experience when I was a child. And so it was just a very slow process for me. I think some people are more, what can I use? Maybe smarter than me. And they start to get the messages and they listen. I got some messages, then I run away. Then I go, oh no, I'm going to do it. Then I run away. And I feel like it's just a back. And I'm still like, when I heard you say earlier, you built 2 businesses. I'm like, the idea of being able to build a successful business to me is the thing that I still haven't worked out. I had a successful Patreon as a musician for some years. And I mean, it was an incredible thing to make. Well, not like in terms of how much money one's supposed to make to be a friend, but the amount of money I made every month just from doing my music and being me was like crazy. But I couldn't maintain it. I burnt out. I didn't ask for help. It's that thing. I got to do it by myself. So I didn't have anyone else there helping me to strategize and to understand what I had and how I could improve it and how I could focus more on my zone of genius, which is what we're doing right now. This is my zone of genius.
But I'm the kind of guy, I could have all the cameras set up, I could have the lights, I could be doing the editing, I could do all of that, because I've always done it all myself. To let go of the wound of the lone wolf and come into the membership of the pack, to be a part of something. And so this process has been an in and out process. I mean, I did my first men's weekend when I was 18. I did the Maingard project with my dad,
which was fucking mental.
I'm about to do that next weekend.
Nice. Yeah. Oh, you're going to love it. It's fantastic. Highly recommend. And yeah, so and all those places actually feel very familiar to me. Always felt very familiar, but the fear of trying to hold it myself, because again, there was no support coming out of it. And that's why I think community is so critical, whether that is a men's circle. And I know I've been kind of shit talking the internet. And I also know if all someone has is a men's group online, join the men's group online.
Sure.
It's way better than nothing. I would say it's way better than social media. And but it is a distant second to the experience of sitting across from someone where your pheromones are kicking off each other, you looking in each other's eyes. There's a very direct connection where you can actually reach out and touch, and it is irreplaceable. This human experience cannot be replicated on the internet.
100%.
So, but if that's what you got, use it. Start there. Phenomenal. I have friends who've been in men's groups for years online and they get so much out of it. So yes, do that. So to summarize this whole thing, what I needed, what's allowed me to become the man I am today, and what's allowing me to continue growing is the willingness to keep stepping back in to the fire. Not because I'm seeking the next high, but because I want to continue unpacking and letting go of what doesn't serve anymore. Combined with, I mean, a big part of it was meeting my now wife. That was a big one. That was just over 10 years ago. And meeting someone who felt so safe that no matter how many times I tried to play the old games, like where I would start to chat with other women online, and I would tell her, I don't know about this whole thing, but but the difference was I had done enough work to be honest. So instead of lying to her, we would have weekly check-ins where we had created a safe container where we got to express everything we needed to. And there are very beautiful structures that can be used for that kind of stuff. And in that space, I would say something like, I'm chatting with this woman online and excited. And then I would hear her express what that felt like for her without making it about me, without blaming me. She was and that was what was amazing. She's like, I understand. This is what feels like you need to do. And here's how I feel. And to hear that from someone I just loved so much, where I could look in her eyes and really feel the pain and it invited me to look at myself and go, what am I doing here? Yeah. What is this for? What am I trying to get out of this experience? And I know it's obvious to some out there, but the grass is greenest where you water it. Yeah. That's literally, the garden is most abundant where you do your gardening. Yeah. So
I discovered this rephrasing a few months ago and I'm in love with it.
Yeah.
It's so accurate,
It's so accurate. Yeah. People keep saying the grass is green on the other side. It's like, that's only because someone out there is watering it and you haven't been close enough. And because as soon as that grass becomes yours, if you do the same thing to that grass you did to your current grass, it's also going to go brown and dead, and you're going to be like, oh,
and you don't see the work most often.
No, exactly. Yeah. So the fruit is ripest where the gardener is present.
Totally.
So that she's been my greatest teacher of the kind of man I want to be, because she's just so honest, and we've been so honest, and we've done plant medicines together, and again, not seeking the peak experience, just seeking more honesty, more authenticity, more being here now. And I think some people are like, what is it? I think Terence McKenna said, once you get the message, put down the phone. So like once you get the thing from the medicine, stop. I disagree with that. I think, and I also think maybe it's better to, something like sacred mushrooms or these other things. Yes, they are powerful medicine. They're also just fun, because what I learned for myself is like with breathwork, for example, if I have a difficult time in a breathwork session, what I call a difficult time is the stuff that is stuck. The stuff that needs to come out. It's the pain, the fear, the anger, the frustration, or whatever, the old wound.
That you've been suppressing.
That I've been suppressing. So when it comes out, then once that happens, the rest of I'm still doing the breath work, but I'm just in bliss, just joyful. Like, get to just come and remember. I get to remember who I really am.
Because the pipe is free.
Exactly. The energy is flowing. And so to me, it's not about a peak experience. It's just about remembering, it's cleaning the pipes. I like the way you said that. It's just cleaning the pipes. Everyone needs, you take your car to get serviced because you want to clean the pipes. You want the engine to run smoothly. It's, to me, breath work and plant medicines, all these things. I literally sometimes think, like, I would sit with a plant medicine every month with my friends just for the fun of it. And yes, all of us at times would be processing the grief of the world, the grief of our mothers or whatever, or ourselves, but only with the intention that we can just sit around, play some music, have a beautiful evening around the fire, and just remember who we really are. So that's some of the ways I become the man I am. That was the longest answer I have ever given in my life.
And there are quite a few things I would like to touch on. So first of all, the relationship with your wife, which I can really, really resonate with, because, I shared this story about my pre-Vipassana circumstances, know, and I've heard a lot of people saying, that was such a dick move from your girlfriend and stuff like that, right? But it was actually a few days ago when I was sitting in a cafe and journaling about how extremely my life changed post Vipassana. It was really a 180-degree turn, because suddenly after those 2 years of sprinting through life, living life on triple time, at least maybe even quadruple time, I was forced to pause right? And the year 2023 was really, there were almost non-novel experiences. It was all about, how can I survive the next day? So I journaled about that year, and I reflected, or I saw, I mean, like, my girlfriend has been the most powerful element of safety in my life, period. There's been nothing that's been that grounding for me. Nothing alike. And I just realized that again, because 3 weeks ago she left to Europe because she works as a private chef, and now it's, retreat season, summer season. So I've been by myself for the last 3 weeks, and I find it so fascinating to observe myself, to reflect on, how her departure changed me and changed just my daily life. And I was sitting down with Francis Chula on Saturday night, who was here on the podcast. It was the second episode. I can highly recommend checking that one out. Similarly profound to this one. And he asked me about, how I've been feeling about being with myself again. And, within the first week, after like 10, 14 days, I realized that I had fallen back into an old pattern of mine, which was coping with the withdrawal of oxytocin, of love gestures, of physical touch, of just someone being there with you and for you and present with you, by escaping into food. Just little occasions of overeating, or feeling that I would have to treat myself with some sushi or a piece of cake or whatsoever, or like late night snacking, which is something that I never do. And yeah, it's just fascinating to be able nowadays to see those changes in my behavior so quickly, and how much groundedness and how much safety she's bringing into my life on a daily basis, super subtly, super softly.
I'm curious because about you said, so that people have said it's a dick move, that you said that before Vipassana. Yeah. So what was the shift that you experienced? Were you journaling about that? Because it sounds like you had a realization around that. And I was just curious if it was particularly connected to that moment, or if it was just in a general kind of appreciation.
What broke open on my Vipassana was also my bonding trauma, the trauma of being abandoned. And, before her, she was my very first girlfriend. Before her, there were only superficial, short-term, mainly limited to, sexual, not even interactions, but transactions. So all these relationships were everything but intimate. And just going through that fear of, potentially losing her was brutal. It was brutal because that was the fear I've been running away from all my life. Right. I wasn't capable of having any intimate relationships because I was afraid of being hurt again, just like when I was hurt when my father left. Right. And so that re-traumatization, if you want so, or that forced confrontation with my abandonment trauma, that's when I realized, or when I started doing like the deeper work, right? Because of before that, the 2 years doing those psychedelic ceremonies with friends and accept dancers, and that was superficial work.
Yeah, I mean, it's important stuff as well.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, I know what you mean.
So I just wanted to touch on that, and also you mentioned those honest weekly check-ins. I keep saying these conversations are the most powerful tool in our relationship. It's not plant medicine, it's not therapy, but it's those one-on-one conversation. And we started doing that during the worst of all times, deep down, when I was deeply depressed. I found this tool I heard a relationship therapist talking about it, that, you sit down with your partner, faces apart, so you don't get influenced by the other's mimics or reactions in general. And everybody gets 15 minutes to talk, just to talk without any break, so that you can really express what's going on and that the other one is forced to listen. And man, it's crazy. We've been doing this for more than 3 years. And I remember like when we're deep down rock bottom, we did it every week. By now we do it like once a month. And I keep praising and recommending this tool because it really forces the other side to listen. And it's been so often that, she started talking and complaining about whatsoever, or just talking about something, and I would feel my my reaction and my resistance coming up and preparing to what I'm gonna counter to that, but I still had 10 minutes, so I was sitting with my feelings. I was like, wait until my turn, and then after a few minutes, obviously, because emotions are fleeting, I started to realize, wait, I'm not listening. I am not listening. I'm preparing my counter move, which is something like
that's like the art of. Have you read the book How to Win Friends and Influence People? And I know of the book, obviously it's a big one, but yeah, like for me, the most crucial learning was that most people are not capable of listening. As you wrote that book 100 years ago.
Now, 100 years forward, with all the social media, dopaminization and all kinds of stuff.
It's gotten really worse, obviously. Now, attention span is what? An average 5 seconds?
So,
it's not great.
And yeah, just to get back to, craft this art of listening again.
Yeah.
Has been so fucking powerful. And even to go deeper, it was often that after 1 hour, I actually got to understand why I've been frustrated or angry or anxious in the first place. Because it's never about those daily conflicts. It's something much, much deeper. And you only get to understand it when you start digging and digging and digging. And then I would often see that, I don't know, some behavior that was triggering me was about, let's say, my mother relationship or something like that. And you don't get that by just talking for a few minutes and, keep exchanging, keep countering every few seconds. And not necessarily even by journaling, because you need that exchange, right? So yeah, I just wanted to share this tool because it's been immensely powerful and essential to our relationship.
Such a good tool.
Right.
My aunt actually taught me the version, because it's a very similar version, slightly different. I think there's so many ways to do these things, but my aunt some years ago, I don't remember what we were talking about, but she's like, I have this thing I've done with my partner. He actually passed quite recently, but there was a little festival called Learning Clan some years ago, where it was a really great concept where you basically, there's like these message boards in the middle of the little festival. And like, this is maybe 200 people at most. And anyone can write on the board, say like Saturday afternoon, 2 p.m. I'm doing a workshop on this, whatever it is. And they said specifically, you do not need to be a master at this. It's just something you care about that you want to share with other people. And Carly and I actually did a conscious communication workshop. And it was amazing because we just shared these tools that we'd been using that we felt like had helped us so much. The primary one, which anyone out there could start practicing right now today, is eye language. Whether you're in a partnership or not, you know eye language because you've done men's work. So, well, you'll probably recognize it. But so eye language is basically saying I when
eye language.
Eye language. Sorry, I as in I, the letter I, like I, self-language. Self-language. Yeah. So for some people, this is like a crazy, I remember my dad was doing personal, like transformational work long time ago. I must have been in my late teens or early 20s. And one day he came home and he's like, I've got this great tool I'd like to practice with you. And he taught me eye language, which was amazing. Yeah. He's like, what I want us to practice is that anytime each of us is talking about ourselves, we only say I and me. So for example, I'll give people out there who don't understand what I mean. It's like, say I'm telling you a story. I say, I was walking along the beach the other day and it was a really beautiful day. And then, when you see someone who you haven't seen in a while and you wave and they don't recognize you and you feel like, oh God, maybe they don't think I'm such a good person or maybe I did something. And so what happened is I shifted from speaking about myself to saying, you know, when you this, you that. And so I'll give you the example of that again in I language. I know you know this, but this is for those listening. I was walking along the beach the other day, having a lovely time. It was a sunny day. And then I saw someone I hadn't seen in a while. And I waved at them and they didn't wave back. And suddenly I was like, do they not like me anymore? Did they not recognize me? Did I do something wrong? And I started to feel a little weird. So for anyone listening, can you hear the difference there? One is that I have generalized. I said, you know, when you, and I've immediately depersonalized the story. Instead of saying, owning, this is my lived experience. It's so much more vulnerable, so much more powerful, and so much more honest. And it invites people in so much more authentically. And I've noticed another thing about this, which I don't know that anyone realizes, but I've noticed I can tell when someone is speaking about something that's more vulnerable because they go into you language. That people will generally say, oh, I was having such a fun party the other night. It was so cool. I was there with my friends. And then, you know, there was this girl there. And you know, when you like see someone you like and then they don't dig you back. And as soon as it gets vulnerable, you language steps in because it's safer.
Yeah.
So that's the first step is I language, agreeing with myself, with my partner, that we're all practicing I language and not to use it as a weapon because it could so quickly become, you're not using I language. And then it's, oh, for fuck's sake, then it's like trying to one up the other person. But then the other piece is basically what you spoke to is a structured time. In our case, we would generally agree for an hour and each person gets 5 minutes. And we're practicing I language, we're practicing as much as possible, but also anything goes. Like I could be like, I'm thinking you've been a real asshole recently. And I could then say why. And so it's like freeing myself from this idea of what's right, what's wrong. It's like, this is just what I'm currently judging. This is my belief right now. And I just want to get it out there. And bouncing back and forth. And again, no interruptions. One of the things we added in sometimes, and I think is very useful, is that before the next person starts, is to say what I heard you say is.
Oh, yeah.
So that the other person just says, I heard, like the main message I heard from your 5 minutes was this. And then the other person can be like, oh, thank you. That is it. Or, fuck no, I didn't say that at all. It's like, okay, well, what did you say? Let's take a moment to get that we're on the same page here. Because so often I am reacting to something that was not the intended message from the other person. And I'm going off on a whole thing. And they're like, that's not what I was trying to say at all. So that's a really good foundational one as well. And so then we go back and forth until the hour's up. And generally we've resolved it by then, like whatever the thing was. And it doesn't have to be separate. You can be like, well, what you said there, now I feel this. And it can really weave in, but no interruptions. And if it's not resolved in that hour, immediately make the next date. Like, okay, we're going to do this again tomorrow. We're doing it in a week. Like, so that there's a sense that it's okay. We're going to get through. We don't have to bring this up in our everyday life because we're going to get through whatever this thing is. And there were a few times where we would have one of these clearings and we'd get to the end of our time. And I remember once saying to Kylie, just like, I don't know where we go from here. Like, I feel completely stuck. Like, it's just, and that was part of my acknowledgement. That was part of my 5 minutes. And from that, she was like, I also feel like that. And then we were like, oh, we both feel like we don't know where it goes from here. And suddenly we were connected about that feeling. Like, it's okay to have that feeling. So like, fuck, I feel a bit overwhelmed. Like, this is kind of like this, that's it. And then from there we reconnected. So it's being willing to allow it to, and it can get really uncomfortable because it's very honest. It's very real. It's very deep. But yeah, there's many ways to do these practices. I'd happily I've got a little printout for anybody who's wanting to kind of take this on.
Let's put that into the show notes, definitely in the description.
Sweet.
Cool, appreciate that. I love the addition with rephrasing what the other person said.
Yeah.
Maybe you're gonna try the 2 hours, huh? That's for the real.
The 2 hours. Oh my God.
But I would like to touch on something you've mentioned quite a few times by now, which is plant medicine. Or actually, I would like to chat about something else you mentioned on our reunion, a few weeks ago, 1 year after our man's initiation, which is also something beautiful, right? Like meeting up with the man you've gone through this intense transformative experience 1 year after it happened, it took place, was, even if it was only the half of the group, it was I can highly recommend doing that. Like stay connected, ideally in person, and meet up again. And you kind of mentioned, on a side note, the drug crystal meth, which I'm not really too familiar with. I happened to watch the movie Beautiful Boy a few weeks ago. Have you heard of it? Timothy Chalamet plays in it, and it's about a young boy, a very gifted, healthy, creative boy who comes from, we would say, a functional family background, right? Who goes to college, and it's based on a true story. And he somehow, just like, every adolescent, he tries, many adolescents, I have to say, he starts out with smoking some pot and then tries some other drugs, and eventually he starts to experiment with crystal meth, which is, both you and I would consider us to be advocates of plant medicine, to have done a lot of work on a personal level, but also with guiding people. And we've all heard this mainstream narrative of, that's why cannabis was illegal for so many years. Like, one of the most, do I want to say, harmless drugs out there, because politicians reasoned that would be the gateway to quote unquote harder drugs, such as heroin, cocaine, or crack, and crystal meth. And I think the both of us, we speak for differentiating between drugs such as, psychedelics, empathogens, depressants, and see or differentiate between the different qualities of different drugs. And I would just like to know more about your history with crystal meth, if you're open to share.
Yeah, sure. With pleasure. Well, not pleasure, but it's it's an old story for me. I'd say trauma is the gateway to hard drugs. It's, for me, when I look back on it now with the understanding I have now, when I got in South Africa, we call it tik, T-I-K, and there's other stuff in there as well as speed or meth. I don't know what else, but it's not good stuff. It's not clean stuff. But I wasn't like, I don't know how other people would do that drug, but it's a pretty gnarly drug. It's a very strong drug. But I would just sit at my friend's house and we'd stay up all night playing Uno and playing music and like just playing computer games and just hanging out. But what it gave me was, I felt alive again. It was a way to move away from the numbness without actually having to feel the bad shit. I just felt so good. I felt like, I'm so alive. I feel so alive. I could do anything. Like, I feel so pumped. But it was just eating my body. And it's just very easy to get a hold of. Like, it was a big thing, especially at that time. Even other people I know who are of a similar age who I didn't know back then were also like, oh yeah, I remember those times. Like, it was going around. But I realized that I was already on the path of self-destruction through avoidance of my authenticity. Like, this is something I'm still processing. I feel a lot of sadness about. But when I was at Waldorf school, so Waldorf Constantia, it's a very hippie kind of school for those who don't know. But I had been at government or public schools before, which were just breaking me. I was too sensitive for it. They were destroying me. And then I went to the school, and actually I had started school a year young. So they said, look, we go by age at Waldorf, and we'd like you to stay back a year and do this year again, because we believe it really matters how old you are in the class you're in. And thank God I listened to those elders, because the group that I came into class with was just like the best people. I became such good friends with them. And at one point I was this 16, 17-year-old surfer. My shoulders were broadening. My chest was expanding. Like, I was becoming a young man. I was surfing. Yeah, I was smoking a bit of weed, but I was going on surf trips and listening to Sublime, and like my musical journey had begun. I was writing songs. I was really... and hanging out with a group of people who were really my kind of people, good quality, like my vibe, nature-oriented, barefoot people. And I fucking ran away from it. I completely bailed on it. I got into the harder drugs. I got into alcohol. And there's a mixed feeling here, because I also started partying more with my brother, who's 2 years younger than me. And I would never regret that. Any time spent with my brother is good time. And at the time, his kind of scene was a lot more of the mainstream scene around what I would call like jocks in a way, although he wasn't really a jock, but it was just much more what the mainstream was doing. It was like, we go to house parties, we drink, we fight, we fucking drive somewhere, we hook up with girls, like this. That was the kind of story. And I chose that again and again and again over what was actually more authentic to me. And the speed was, the meth was like an accelerated version of that, because I was only really into it for about a year. And I was very fortunate that we did yearly photos at Waldorf at the school. So the one photo was me at age around it would have been 17. And I've got this like hip Rasta hat on. I'm wearing a t-shirt with a giant weed leaf on it. I think I still was the next year, actually.
Can we show these pictures? Do you have them?
You asked me already, and I do have them. I will definitely, I will add them. I'll send them to you. And so there was that photo. And then a year later, I think I may still have had a t-shirt with a ganja leaf on it. But when I saw the two, I had a scrapbook. And so I put the photos next to each other in the scrapbook. And when I looked at them and I saw what I had become, I had lost so much weight. I'd lost like 10 kilos of weight. And I'm not a big guy. You know, I'm 5'7". And I saw an emaciated man. I just saw this like sunken, I was like, that's not me. And that scared the shit out of me. And I stopped immediately. Wow. Like I just was so terrified by that sight. So for me, I didn't need to go down the path of rehab, like what so many people would end up with, you know, losing. But I lost vitality. I lost a lot of my life energy in that year. And it took me, honestly, it took me till 2020. And so that, I mean, that would have been 2003. 2002, 2003, around there when I was 17, 18, I think it must have been because I finished school. Yeah. And I never put the weight back on. I stayed at around 68, between 67 and 69 kilograms for most of my adult life from that point. Wow. And it really took until I was with Carly and the lockdown started. We were living back on a family farm in Tilbach. And she got me into, and this is just amazing. She has brought so much good stuff into my life. Yeah. God, I feel emotional every time I talk about it. She started wanting to do kettlebell workouts. Really? So I did a kettlebell workout with her, with a 12-kilo kettlebell, 20-minute workout. 5 minutes in, I was like, fuck this, I never want to do this again. This sucks. So I was being a little bitch. And but I did it. I carried on, and I was like, oh, I'm feeling something. And I'd started my journey again with plant medicine at that point after many, many years of not going near them because they were just too scary for me. And I started working with sacred mushrooms and had some big shifts energetically. So I was now getting better habits. I started pranayama every morning. At the same time, I had learned enough about ice baths to get an ice bath, started ice bathing, doing kettlebell workouts.
The Joe Rogan formula.
I mean, maybe, I don't know. Although, and this is a crazy thing, if there's people out there, specifically men, it's slightly different mechanisms for women. So I don't know how to speak to that. It does work for women, but in a different way. So don't quote me on that. But for men, if you just start doing cold immersion, ice baths, and then do a strength training, like your weight training, you over time will massively boost your testosterone, like to a level that people think you're doing PEDs, like at that level. So I've actually got a podcast episode on that, which is with the guy who kind of discovered that in the West. It's an amazing thing. Anyway, so I found that guy because I was like, I've started ice baths, but do I do the ice bath before I work out or after I work out? Or before I did it? And everyone said you do it for recovery, you do it afterwards. Yeah. But then there was this one guy, Dr. Thomas P. Seeger, who was like, I've discovered this thing by accident, and I found one study from Japan that says the same thing. He was like, you can massively boost your testosterone if you do it the other way around. Anyway, long story short. But so I started working out, and over the next sort of 2 or 3 years, my weight's now around 77 kilos. And this is what I'm supposed to weigh. I look more now like I did when I was 17 in my physique, like the broadness and the bit extra. But that meth ate me. It ate my body, and it took me so long to get it back. I could have got it back sooner, I think, if I'd started strength training and eating. And I was also eating a lot of meat. Like I went all in, not carnivore, nothing extreme, but more, I guess I would say animal based. Lots of dairy, lots of kefir, lots of good quality meats, lots of eggs, lots of fruit, still lots of veg as well. But like the foundation was those really powerful building foods. Yeah. And it just completely changed my physique. I saw, again, my friend Krallen, I mentioned earlier, the musician, and he's always been someone who takes care of himself. Like he goes to gym, he's got a solid body. And I saw him at a festival we were both playing at about a year after I'd last seen him. And when he saw me, he's like, bro, you like double the size. What happened? And I was like, it's just, I've been actually taking care of myself in this way.
Protein powder.
No protein. Yeah, exactly. Steroids. Have you heard of this thing? No. So that meth thing really was an escape for me. Yeah. But thankfully, that photo just like kept me safe in that way, because I think I could have I think I could have just kept going. Like I was so into it. It was so fun for me.
Crazy, man.
Yeah. It's horrific crazy stuff.
It's crazy.
Do not recommend.
Just looking at a picture made you go cold turkey. Yeah. And the thing is, I mean, that's a rather less dramatic case study of crystal meth, right? Like most people, they fucking ruined their life. And also in the movie, Beautiful Boy, this guy ends up, being completely unavailable to his family, like incapable of actually having a conversation because he's so addicted. The crystal meth has fried his brain, basically. He starts robbing his family. And that's just a quote-unquote normal case with most crystal meth junkies,
I mean,
right?
It's important to... I haven't looked up the statistics on these kinds of things, but a lot of the stories we hear about things like cocaine, crack, crystal meth, heroin, like I know a few people who've had heroin and then not had heroin anymore.
Yeah.
So it's like, I think it really relates a lot of the time to the person's environment. Is that beautiful, well, not beautiful, it's a terrible experiment. I really wish we didn't have to experiment on animals. I think it's like, let's stop doing that.
Yeah.
Let's just sit with ourselves and work stuff out rather than having to torture animals to get clear on things. But anyway, there was this experiment with the rats where they put them in basically like a shitty environment, or they've just put them in a normal environment for rats in a cage, not a great vibe. And they gave them like the water that was just water and the water that had cocaine in. Do you know this experiment?
Yeah, I've heard of
and
it.
then they just tapped the cocaine one until they fucking died. Yeah. But then the guy went and he created rat paradise with like everything a rat could ever wish for. And yes, sometimes they'd tap the cocaine one, but then they'd have the other one. They didn't have a self-destruct need because they had all their needs met. And I think it's the same thing, like, even in that time when I was so locked down and so numbed out and I was into that meth, I still had quite a good network around me. Like I was even telling my dad was a very open-minded hippie. So I would tell him I'm experimenting with these different drugs. And I remember at one point, he's like, Nathan, I would really like if you don't do this one anymore. This seems like it's kind of taking you down a path. And I actually ignored him. But the fact that I felt like there was still this like net or the safetiness around me. So where I think a lot of the time, I know it can go for many people, but I also know many people who would take speed sometimes and were fine, who took cocaine sometimes and were fine. Yeah. And I also have many friends who were fucked up and had to end up in rehab and all the rest. And like, so I don't know if it's just about the substance. It's not just about the substance itself. Sure. It really isn't. Meth is addictive, but it's not... it doesn't have to always go the way people think it will. I'm definitely not suggesting anyone tries it because it is very enjoyable at a level that is dangerous. So there's many other ways. Do an ice bath. You'll feel as good exactly. And you'll be better.
Totally. Now, swinging the pendulum into the other direction.
Let's go.
Just like we've been doing it for the last almost 2 hours.
Wow.
You also mentioned a very profound experience with a rather rare plant medicine, I would say, which is iboga, at our reunion a few weeks ago. And I'm just super curious to hear more about that.
Okay. I thought you were going to ask me about the coaching when you asked me about how's your coaching going. Oh, fuck me. Anyway, iboga, so I'm not an expert on iboga. Iboga is a medicine I know kind of the least about. I can recommend another guest if you want to kind of dive more in depth. I can share a bit of my personal experience. But again, with the caveat, like we've been discussing, for me, when I'm talking about these things, this is not because I'm chasing the notches on my belt that I've done all the things. I actually thought I would never be sitting with iboga. I was like, I have no need or desire to sit with that medicine. Like I've got mushrooms. Mushrooms work for me when I need to do deep work. I've got these, and iboga, as I since have learned, it called me properly, and I really avoided it for well over a year. And the messages just started coming thicker and thicker and thicker of like, this is time.
In what form?
So how did it start? Well, my one friend started working with iboga, and she kept, like, for some reason with me particularly, she's like, dude, I feel like this is your thing. And I was like, I don't think it is. I think I'm good. And she said, but she said one thing in particular. She's like, I can't believe you haven't sat with this medicine because your songs are exactly about to play what happens with this medicine. And when she said that was a little like, some part of me was like, oh fuck, now I'm getting interested. And so that was a part of it. And then I had started to kind of have an awareness that maybe it was calling me, like just feeling like there's a yes where before there was a no, and I can just tell the way it's coming up. I've got more skilled in noticing those kind of things, the synchronicities over time. And then I bumped into the guy who actually facilitates it.
Randomly.
Randomly. I was taking my dog to the vet, and he was at the laundromat next door, and he walked out as I was walking in, like, and I wasn't even going to the same place. And he came, and as I saw him, I was like, fuck, it's got me.
But to interrupt real quick, I had a similarly, quote unquote, random, crazy experience last night when I went for a walk at the beach, and I bumped into a, I don't know, woman. She was like in her 70s or something like that. And she seemed like quite a conservative South African. We just started chatting because she has an apartment to rent available, right? And then somehow I don't know. I definitely didn't aim to talk about psychedelics, plant medicine whatsoever with her, because I kind of got her quite conservative vibe. But then it was her. It was her starting. She was like, "Well, I don't know what we talked about. Yeah, we talked about my podcast, right?" And I shared something about the first episode with my psychedelic therapist. Like I went that far, but not further. And then she was like, "Yeah, you know what, son? I recently read an article in the New York Times about a journalist doing some kind of drug starting with a B." And I was like, "You're not talking about iboga?" And she was like, "Yeah, iboga." I was like, "You're joking. I'm about to go on a podcast with a guy who's done iboga a few weeks ago." And she suddenly she was super alive and so interested in that conversation. And I actually listened to the podcast, the New York Times podcast, on the way here with that journalist, which I would say you can listen. I think this is going to be more enriching and more exciting. But it's interesting to hear that it's coming more and more into, I don't want to say, well, maybe it's mainstream, because I mean, I've been working in the psychedelic industry for, I don't know, 5 years now. And still for me, iboga has been, as I said, one of the rarest or rarely mentioned plant medicines. Now it's interesting that it's becoming kind of more known. Well,
yeah.
So, but how is that encounterment?
It's interesting because I think it hasn't been made illegal in the same way that others have.
Yeah.
There are, I think this, again, I haven't looked into this too much, but I think there are synthetic versions of which they actually call ibogaine.
Yeah, exactly. Isn't that the main ingredient?
Yeah. So you can, for example, in South Africa, there are ibogaine clinics.
Yeah.
And I imagine that part of the reason it's becoming so popular or so known now is it's just so effective for incurable addicts.
Yeah.
So alcoholics or heroin addicts or opiate addiction.
Yeah.
Like people can go from intense use. You do have to not be using at the time that you sit with the medicine, but like they come out of that and there's no craving and there's no, it basically clears your body of the craving for the opiates, which is amazing. Like that's incredible. But that wasn't my reason. Like I said, I was like, I don't need that level of like, that sounds so intense. And then the first time I ever heard of it was in 2009 or 2010, where I was living with the woman I was taking care of. I was working for her actually and living on her land. And I was working for her, yeah. And she mentioned it. And at the time, I remember her saying, it's like, you know how you defragment your hard drive? So you remember that was a thing on a PC. You used to go.
Bro, I'm born in 98.
Okay. So do you know what I'm talking about?
Kind of.
Yeah. So basically, so back in the day, when I was a young boy, there was this thing that sometimes with the computer would start to slow down. And it basically was that like the information wasn't organized well on the hard drive. Yeah. And so you would defrag your hard drive, which is you click a button and it would take hours sometimes. And it would basically reorganize the information on the hard drive.
Bro, it sounds so old to me.
Yeah. It really, like I haven't had to do that I don't even remember the last time. But when she said that, I was like, she's like, it's basically like doing that to your mind. Like where it just defragments your entire reality and then puts it back together. And I was like, that sounds terrible. I never want to do that. Anyway, so long story short, I bumped into this guy's name, Sean. He has a great podcast episode that he actually recommended I listen to. So I bumped into him. I said, look, I'm getting this sense I'm being called. And he's like, oh, beautiful. So you're probably in that place where your heart is saying yes and your head is saying no. I was like, exactly. and he's like, cool, listen to this podcast episode and then you'll know what your next steps are if you're feeling it.
To be fair, that's a standard.
It is a standard
selling phrase, actually.
That's
just to.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, totally.
He's definitely not a salesman in the sense of that kind of training.
Yeah, I just didn't want to slip that through.
Yeah. No, definitely. But the way he said it in the moment that he said it was what I needed to hear for me. And I think that's the distinction. It wasn't like he was making a sales pitch. Yeah. He was speaking to me in that moment of exactly what I needed to hear, to acknowledge what was going on. That some part of me was like, we really need to do this. So Sean suggested I listen to that podcast episode. And when I did it's beautiful because he really lists out the process and the way that he spoke. And it was interesting because I had heard about Sean and his work before, and there's like a much deeper story about the interactions. So my first combo experience that I mentioned before in 2009, Sean was there. He was one of the facilitators. And then we've had this long, like in and out connection since then. And he moved back to South Africa at some point. But I know him through another mutual friend, and the mutual friend has sat with iboga a number of times with Sean, and he would always share with us the mantras that Sean gives you to like support you on the journey. The mantras are, there is, as in there is something, there is an observation of an experience or a sensation, or so you like instead of I am, it's there is joy, for example, instead of I am feeling joy.
So kind of stepping onto a meta level.
Yeah, and just becoming the observer. There is the first one. So what is the second one, and whatever is the third one. And I remember when my friend told me this the first time, I was like, that's ridiculous. What the fuck? Like, why would you? Those are such shitty mantras. So I was coming with all these stories that I'd been carrying for a long time. But again, I actually had a men's dinner that a friend invited me to some months before. And I was sharing some of what I was going through, which was some pretty heavy stuff, some pretty heavy addiction with social media and just tech in general, feeling of avoidance, of distraction. And at that table, men were like, the sound like iboga. Have you thought of iboga? And they were like, Sean. And it just kept coming up again and again, all these different situations. I was like, okay. So I finally had said to Sean, I'm interested. And we were like, we're going to meet up and have a chat. And then I just avoided the meetup and the chat for ages. So again, another few months. And he went away and it was there were all these things. And until finally he came back and he said, okay, there's been a surprise ceremony. It's coming up in 2 weeks' time. And he gave me the names of the 3 or 4 other people who are going. And every one of those people are people who are facilitators, people I respect, people I love, people I want to learn more from and want to be around and be more inspired by as people on the path with me. As soon as he said, I got goosebumps now, because as soon as he said it, I was like, fuck, it got me. I'm in. Shit. Couldn't have done it better. And he talks about that. He's like, it really is a very strong synchronistic medicine. It puts things in place very well to help things to happen the way they need to happen. It's a very great intelligence, the spirit of and they all are obviously, but like this one really kind of, because it's considered a masculine energy, considered like a father or grandfather medicine. And my experience of it was exactly that. Super structured. And he says that before you go in, I think on the podcast episode I'm recommending, he says like, you go through the stages. You eat the medicine and then you go here and you go there and you go there and you go there. And it's like, for me, when it actually happened, one of the greatest things was like, if I ever had a doubt that there is a greater intelligence that is running the show, that there is a God, for want of a better name, or there is a divine, or there is a universal consciousness, or there is one, whatever, it's like eat a piece of wood and have an entire curriculum unfold before you over the next 18 hours. Bro, it's not like someone made this little we mixed this thing and we invented that chemical and we put, it's like you just eat some wood and your curriculum happens. Like, that's incredible. Yeah. That is amazing. So in terms of the experience itself, I can't really share too much detail. Like, it's really a very personal journey, but it is an opportunity to see where I'm really holding on to stories and where I'm ready to let go. And how I'm ready to let go. And the mantras help a lot. It's like if I'm getting hooked into some big story, whatever. Some huge thing, so what? This massive, there it is. So in terms of, it's a long journey. It's a full weekend, like arrive on a Friday afternoon at like 2 p.m., leave on a Sunday evening. And it's a big journey. It's a death medicine. It's a medicine of dying and rebirthing. So really, But all I can say is that coming out of it, I was like, I can't believe how scared I was of that. That is such a beautiful medicine. It's so wonderful. It's hard. It's very hard. It's very long. It's very intensive, but it's so clear and clean and just like, I don't really know what else to say. It's a very, if it calls you, you'll know, and then it's your time. It might never call you. I don't know that it's for everyone. I didn't think it was for me. And so, but now that I have initiated with it, for me, it feels like it's something I'm certainly going to be working with and developing a relationship with over the years.
I remember you sharing some more details when we were sitting there with our men's group. And I mean, there was a reason I asked, because these stories were just deeply, deeply touching. And
I mean, I could share one story.
Yeah, I was trying to find a way, negotiate way to.
I don't know if this is the story that I told you then. I actually don't remember what I said there. I'm happy for you to prompt if it's something you really want to hear, but I can tell you what comes to mind. So for a bit of context, like my very first 5-gram journey, like what they call the hero's journey or hero's dose with mushrooms, I had that experience that people call the ego death. And for anyone who doesn't know what that means, it means that the identity of myself, who I think of as Nathan, which is just a construct. It's a construct of ideas and histories and conditioning, that none of this is actually real. It doesn't really exist. It's just an idea that I'm holding on to that lives inside of this current vessel that is energized by the breath that is eventually going to stop. And then this will dissolve again. And so that died while I continued breathing. And I returned to a place of oneness, to the sense that of this universal consciousness that is just all light, all sound, all color and space and beingness, and just all love. Really, really, at a very sincere level. Not love and light in the way that so many people are living it now, but Hitler, love. Love you, Hitler. I love you.
I love you. A baby being born. I love you so much. I'm with you. To everything that's ever existed. And it's really hard for me to, even talking about it now, I feel uncomfortable saying those things because it feels so simplistic. And I don't want to deny in any way the trauma, the pain, the experiences we have at this level. And I experienced and lived from a level where forgiveness is already there. There's no need to ask. And that's why asking forgiveness can be so helpful, because it's already there. If any of us needs forgiveness, just ask. God is already forgiven. There's no requirement. You don't have to do anything. It's all held within the one. At least that was my experience. I can only speak for myself.
So I've had that experience. Now, that was the mushroom journey. And I've had that a few times through these different medicine works, through breath work, these different things, of the dissolution of the self back into the one. And then part of what I came to with iboga was one of the visions where I thought I had gone there. I thought I'd gone back to the one. There was a moment where there were the way that my mind was like turning it into images, because it's obviously often beyond description. What I saw was like infinite TV screens spread out across space. And there was this giant infinite being made up of light and color and sound, all these things, watching all the TV screens. And each TV screen was a different life. It was like your life, my life, anyone listening. It was like, that was, it was representing. I was like, oh, I'm there, I'm with the one. And then I suddenly thought, no, this is missing a really key piece, because the one isn't watching from the outside in, the one is the whole thing. The one is everything. And I suddenly clicked that this was an entity that thinks that it is God. That is a big entity, that is a big energetic being, that is the one that wants all our attention all the time, that loves when we're just lost in our phones, completely sucked into the digital machine, completely surrendered our precious presence to this entity, and it's watching all of that going, yeah, keep feeding me. And it's not, I don't want to make it out like it's evil. It is like any other entity, any other being wants to stay alive. And it actually thinks it is God. It believes itself to be the one, but it's separate and it's watching from the outside. And the only way that gets the opportunity to return home is when we stop feeding it. So that was one of the things that I saw and experienced in that moment. The other one was, and maybe this is what you were referring to, because without going into detail, part of the practice is really just to allow everything to move through, is to just witness everything passing by. Stories, memories, ideas, beliefs, structures, just watch it all go past and be like, here I am watching. As soon as I react to something, so like, say for example, there's an image of a dog that I'm seeing in my mind's eye while I'm lying there going on this journey, and I suddenly go, oh my God, my dogs, that image will suddenly get really big and get really intense, and something will start, and it'll just be like, yeah, keep paying me attention, keep paying me attention, let's keep going. And I can go on this whole journey. I could spend the rest of the journey hooked into that story. But the practice of it is to go, whatever, or so what, or there is, and let go, come back to the breath, and then that dissolves and moves on. And so what it showed me is that any memory we have, any story, any trauma, anything at all is just another structure, another form that lives through attention. And that doesn't mean that it's bad. Each of them wants to be acknowledged. Like, I was seeing it all go past. I just wasn't reacting to it. And as soon as I reacted, I got hooked, and it hooked me. And then we were on this big journey together, and I had to then, I release you. I see you, and I'm not going to get hooked in anymore. So, yeah.
I really hope people get the message here, because that's
the thing with everything in life, where attention goes, energy flows, like whatever.
I could have just said that and it would have been
yeah, but like the image of the dog, it can also be the relationship to your parents, the conflict you had with your partner, or the story you created around being fired from the business you had poured your heart into for 2 years straight, and you are the creator of your own pain, regret, struggle, whatsoever.
Yeah, that's the matter. The thing I noticed was the stuff that was stickiest for me was anytime I would see stuff related to me being unworthy. So me having been a fuck up, not being enough of a financial provider for my family, or having done that thing back then to that person, like that stuff for me, I was very attached to that. I'm like, yeah, but that's true. I was a fuck up, or I am not getting it right in that way. And then it's like, okay, cool, let's keep going. Like, we've got you now. And so it's a really weird thing. Because actually what we end up doing is seeing ourselves as God sees us. It's back to what I was referring to, is that in the end, what I see is all the stories. Nathan as someone who's depressed. Nathan as someone who struggles to make enough money to support his family. Nathan as someone who has some addictions. All these things that I tend to judge, the invitation is to view them as God does, which is, I'm with you. I love you.
Which would you define it as the ego?
No.
Yeah.
No, the ego is also the part of me that's here having a conversation with you, that's just enjoying this experience. And without the ego, I am God. But the ego is the thing that helps us to have the separate experience. The ego itself has got a bad rap.
Yeah.
I really love I'm grateful for the ego. The ego is Nathan, is the identity of the separate self. And the one watching through the ego is what's beyond it, the one observing. And so I don't have any issue with the ego. That what the ego does is its design is to stay the same. So any change to the ego is very challenging because it feels like death, because it is the death of the current structure of the ego. But that's where the discomfort comes in. It's being willing to continue this path of change, because transformation is the only constant, is to be willing to allow the change to keep happening. And the ego freaks out about that. But that's also healthy. Like, for example, if you're in out in the wild and a lion is running towards you, the ego says, get the fuck out of here. And it activates all these systems in the body that gets you out of there before you're even consciously thinking about it. Because the ego is like, we're going to change if we stick around, i.e. the lion will eat us and we will dissolve back into everything. And that's true. But it also does that for like, fuck, I've got this uncomfortable conversation I need to have with my partner because I've been out of integrity, or they've been out of integrity, and we need to sit down. The ego's like, we shouldn't do that at all. That sounds crazy. That sounds like we might need to change. We might need to see things in a different way. And I'm very happy with how things are right now, because that's my job. Yeah. So yeah, I love the ego.
It's wild because, when we met up for our reunion, I think it was me sharing my Tantra experience first. And then you were like, oh, what the fuck? That sounds exactly like what I experienced on my iboga journey. And for everyone who's interested, I got a podcast episode with my Indian Tantra teacher, where we speak in length about this whole tantric worldview and my experience. And he's far more competent than I am to in terms of elaborating on all that juicy stuff. But it's funny that
I'm excited
for the material, that it's pretty much the same container. And the 3 mantras, because I shared my 3 mantras that I came out with, of that Tantra teacher training, which were, all of this is a dream. There's nothing wrong, nothing right. Everything is just as it is. And I'm God. So
triggered.
But it's still difficult to speak that out.
No, I get it. I get it.
So, well, I watched the biopic of Bruce Springsteen last night.
Okay.
Have you seen it? I can recommend it. And I was surprised by it really focuses on Bruce Springsteen's depression, which I find very honorable.
Wow.
That they dedicate this movie to depression. And there was this one quote that I had to stop the movie, write it down, and I kept thinking about it for the last 12 hours. And I definitely wanted to mention it here, because a lot of what we talked about is really contained in this quote by Flannery O'Connor. Where you come from is gone, and where you thought you were going to was never there. And nothing outside of you can give you any place in yourself right now is the only place you go to. Beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, it's for me like a final piece here, maybe a final piece, but is I really want meditation to be a part of my life, because what the iboga showed me was, and actually especially the way Sean and his partner Nicole facilitate the experience. I don't know how any other people facilitate it, might be totally different, but a big part of their focus is what they call still nothingness. So it's really, and for me, stillness has been, and still is to a certain extent, one of the scariest things for me. And I also, it just circles back to the Vipassana, because I've since learned that for those of us who were forced into still quietness by our trauma, by the way we were traumatized, stay still, don't speak. For us to go and sit in stillness is exactly where the trauma, we can be re-traumatized. I didn't know that until I chatted with someone years later. I think I was reading something about Vipassana and stillness, and I was like, oh, fuck. For me, that was what happened. Anyway, but the iboga really gave me an opportunity to go there in a way that I could really, process it. Like, it was really supported beautifully. And I came out of it, and I've still struggled to sort of meditate, but now I really have a desire. Whereas before I didn't have the desire.
Yeah.
So now I know that I'm a little further without making it about when I get there. When I can meditate, then I'll be something else better than, but I just know that there is a journey that I'm on.
Yeah.
And I'm happy with where I am is beautiful. And I'm grateful for this moment. And I also know that as I can bring more stillness, still nothingness into my daily life, that's going to improve everything else for me. It's going to allow me to be more in the presence of that joyful, here I am, watching the stream pass by. And so, yeah, I really honor that. Not meditation in the way that it's talked about, even by people like Tim Ferriss, who I adore. I admire him so much. But it's like, it's such a bro, like, hack, like productivity. Instead of like, it's just a chance to just sit and watch stuff happen and be okay with, oh fuck, I should have done that thing, or I said that, or what am I going to do about the money, or just watch it. Oh, there it is. There is that worry. Whatever. There's the worry. Whatever. And just so yeah. For me, that's what that line brought to me. What you just said there immediately, it was just like.
I appreciate you touching on passion again, because that's what I definitely wanted to mention. Like, I told the story about my quote unquote horror trip on Vipassana. But looking back now, 3 years later, having gone through the integration, really, I'm deeply, deeply grateful for that experience. It made me the man I am today. And I love who I am. And really, I mean, it's been a key motive for me starting this podcast, right? Bringing messages like these out into the world that hopefully help a lot of people out there. And yeah, maybe to wrap this up, this podcast, I'm thinking about calling it Man's Search for Meaning, inspired by the book from Viktor Frankl, which is, I keep saying it, I think one of the most inspiring books ever written. And I think every human being should read this book at some point in their life. And my final question is just always, what makes life beautiful? That's me.
That's a great question. Thank God. One for episode 2. What makes life meaningful? I'm still working out how to say this well, so thank you for the opportunity to practice. My experience, we are in an infinite universe, which is impossible because there's no outside, there's no edge, there's no beginning, there's no end, which is impossible. The paradox. And in an infinite universe, the finite must also be present. So we are currently in the finite phase of the infinite universe. And we have a moment where we return home, where we become one again. And in that moment, that being that is all powerful, that is the only thing that's actually really real in the universe, is that one consciousness decides how everything should be in the finite moment. And then this happens. So what makes life meaningful is that there is some beautiful being that said, all I really want is this. That's it.
Beautiful. Beautiful. How can people find you, Nate?
They can't. I'm out. The simplest and most direct would, it's a funny one. I'm kind of like so off the internet right now that it's a hard one. But my website is the simplest, nathanmaingard.com. So it's just my name. And then my surname, which is Maingard. There's no U in guard in my surname. So nathanmaingard.com.
The guard will overview.
Yeah, the guard will
overview. Link in the description. And yeah, I would just like to say, I know you work as a coach, as a guide, and I really appreciate and admire the man that's sitting in front of you. It's been a very enriching conversation with me, also very polarizing, but that's why we're here, right?
Yeah.
And for anyone who's seeking some form of guidance, in German we got the saying to put one's hand into the fire to like, honor to
Recommend?
to recommend it. Be like, hey man, I can really.
I love that. Is that how would you say it in German?
Meine Hand ins Feuer legen. Put my hand into the fire. This is gonna be a valuable experience, or that you're gonna benefit from it, or whatsoever.
Yeah, I get it 100%. I love it. It's a beautiful saying.
Yeah. Really appreciate this. Really appreciate you making it, and I'm looking forward to some helpful workouts.
Hell yeah. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it, Byron. Blessings.
Let's get some physical touch.
Hell yeah. Thank you.